Ben Garver, everybody, got a great guest. Ben is a photojournalist and has been with the Berkshire Eagle. He's retired as of May of 25. He had been there since 1995, had taken 1 million photographs for Berkshire County's main source of mainstream legacy media.
Yeah.
You and I bumped into each other on the rail trail. I wanted to start doing more sort of on the street video.
I guess we should explain that I had a camera flying off the back of my bicycle.
Yes, you asked me, you said, kind sir, can you help me remove my camera? I said, oh my God, it's Ben from the Eagle. I'm with my son. And I said, are you Ben from the Eagle? And you said, yeah. And I said, I'm Slater from 95.9. And you go, oh, yeah. So we struck up a conversation. And we started talking about cameras, and then here we are.
Throughout my career, I was learning to be a really good technician and communicator. But my favorite photos were always family photos. I'd want to see the family photos of the people I was visiting. Those can tell you a whole lot.
Yeah.
It tells you how they value each other, where they stand. Are they standing in chaos? Are they standing in order? You know, is a dog in the picture? It tells you a lot about who people are. Or are the family pictures less important than the fishing pictures? So they all gave me a glimpse into how someone was living and you know, what they thought was important to record. And that's where this point in history of imagery is really cool, because the iPhone came into existence and suddenly 100 times more pictures are taken by the iPhone, or 1,000 times. This is an incredible amount versus everything else. And now we're seeing what's important to people. We're also seeing, you know, a lot of bad pictures as people learn how to communicate with the camera. But there's some really good photographers out there who are doing new media, who aren't trained as photographers. They're just smart enough to critique themselves and get better and better. The fact is, every day we're looking at Instagram, and we're looking at some real rock stars in photography there. We're also looking at our friends who may or may not be rock stars, but they have interesting pictures and you care. We can now see so much more through social media about what's important to each other.
Right.
And the ironic thing is we're getting to know each other so much less, because that feels like a substitute for meeting someone in real life.
Yes.
You know, I let people, I was injured after I retired from the Eagle. I let people know on social media because I didn't want to vanish from the community, but I kind of had to for a while. And that's kind of a cool thing, but people really didn't know how hard that was. That was 4 months of misery. Yeah.
To vanish, or because you were in pain?
Because I had to gradually regain my ability to walk. You know, and it'll come back, but I got a long way to go.
What, did you slip?
I did. So without it, when I left the Eagle, I was able to use my free time for exercise and becoming healthier. And I was hiking at Bosque, and I slipped on some gravel going downhill. And I don't quite remember it, but I know I couldn't get up. So I called some people I knew who were at the base of the mountain, and they sent people up. And I had ruptured a tendon called the quadricep tendon. And a week later, they had reattached everything and said, just don't move for 3 months. Let's let this tissue repair before you start moving it. And then they said, okay, start moving it. And I couldn't move it at all. So then the physical therapy kicked in, and I'm still on that stage.
So how does it work? There's a car accident on First and Fenn. There are 3 main photographers for the Eagle, 4 maybe. Jillian Heck, Stephanie Zolshan, Ben Garver. Who's the other one?
That's it.
That's it.
And I'm no longer on that list.
Right.
One of the editors would call us, and hopefully it would be the editor who knew what everyone was doing. For years, I did that. If I found an accident, I would send the person I knew was least busy or could afford to do it. And we'd go to the accident, and I don't necessarily think that was. I'm not going to speak for the other photographers, but as far as I'm concerned, I didn't necessarily shoot the most stuff at an accident. I wanted to clearly get across what had happened. We're careful not to interfere with police and fire and victims. We worked really hard to get the point across. And people really want to know what happens in an accident. And I think it's actually a pretty important example of why local news is good for the community, because you look at West Street now, which is festooned with lights and signs and crosswalks. That's to save lives. And that's the kind of thing we would respond to. Not necessarily, we don't ever want to show someone who's been hurt or died. But we definitely want to highlight dangerous behavior or locations so that people think twice. And I know that my own work has influenced my life quite a bit. I've seen a lot of fires, and I won't have a candle in my house.
Wow.
I have a coffee maker that doesn't have power. Those little things that are so easy to forget. And honestly, I've left a pan on the stove here and there. I don't want in my house because I've seen what happens.
Interesting. You've been around. You've reported on trauma so often.
That it became traumatic for myself, yes.
So much so that you didn't want to stop doing your job, but was there any intervention? Did you end up talking to anybody? Or
not as much as I should have. And I think retiring early was the move for that. So I have time to unwind all that pressure that we were under for years and years and years. Because I saw a lot of things. If we were always the first on the scene, and I saw a few things that I couldn't photograph.
What does the call look like? You get a text, you get a call. How fast do you have to get there?
Sometimes I got a text, but I would always call back to see if I could glean anything, even from the tone of the editor's voice, as to what was going on.
I assume they're listening to the scanner?
Yeah, a lot of people, the editors are people in our community, so people will call their cell phones. The scanner would be a one way to do it, but that's sort of fallen out of use. A lot of times people will call the Eagle, and so occasionally it'll even be a social media post, and we'd react fast enough to get something. It was never fast enough for me, because really the news for a visual journalist is best fresh or when it's unfolding. So the editor would then text, maybe a brief conversation, maybe clarify where on Slater Street the fire or accident was, and we'd get to it and do our thing. But like I said, we don't do a ton of stuff there. We're trying to be as professional as possible and just get the job done, clearly communicate it, and hopefully demonstrate with our photos the importance of the scene, the feeling of the scene, that whatever happened. Whatever
How
transpired.
do you capture that?
Well, it may be something simple, like a neighbor will put their hand to their forehead, or a firefighter will take his mask off and he's sweaty. It could be that you can just show the amount of water going on, the firefighters climbing on roofs and stuff like that. For a fire. For Crime is different. It's just the police response. On one occasion, and I did see officers take down someone who was a stabbing or a shooting, and I just happened to be on the scene with a very long telephoto lens, but that's really rare. So most of the times with police stuff, you got to stay out of the scene so you don't contaminate anything. They're doing their investigations, and you might get a police jacket or some serious expressions on their face, or that kind of stuff, or the dog on the scene.
You've been around so long that police and fire recognize you and they know why you're there and what you're doing.
Yeah, but a lot of the professionals that I came up with are retired or retiring now. So emergency services people tend to retire early as well because they're under a lot of stress, and their pensions will take care of them a little earlier than 65. So I'm well recognized by a ton of them, and the newer, younger people would have no idea who I am. But it's kind of okay because I don't need to take those pictures anymore. They weren't I love the job, but I don't feel the need to photograph spot news anymore. When I'm done with the physical therapy, I'll probably take photos again, but it'll be a different ilk,
What's spot news?
Spot news is an emergency. Spot news is fire, flood, crime, car crashes.
You had no issue getting to a scene at 3 a.m. Did you not do that?
That kind of call was really quite rare. So no, not at all. I hate driving at night, and my friends will tell you I won't go out at night. But I wouldn't hesitate to cover a fire if called. The problem with the newsroom is that they're all people who need to sleep. So at late night, some things got missed. There was a few fires I did at night, and they were pretty intense.
You said you've seen some things that just inadvertently you couldn't photograph, and how was that?
A lot of things I'm referring to is like if someone was dead.
Yeah.
And at that time, scenes get pretty quiet and actually peaceful. There might be an officer who's had a bad day or a firefighter, and they might snap at you, but it changes dramatically. And the emergency personnel knew that I wouldn't violate that kind of thing, and my editors would support it for sure. So the things I saw, if the scene was really calm, it could have been really bad. Or it can be calm because nothing happened at all and we just got an erroneous tip. Those are very common, and they're frustrating. You get called out to an emergency and there's no emergency, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So we went to a lot of things that didn't pan out to anything newsworthy.
Morally, you wouldn't release things that are graphic. You were recounting to me the other day an accident, West Street, maybe 20 years ago, that you inadvertently got on tape at a fatality.
Yeah.
Took some footage of the car wreck.
That was West Housatonic. That was interesting for a few reasons. It was fatal, and I did make a video. The fact of the matter is that I also made a horrible mistake, and that is every time I pushed the video, it was an old style video camera that flipped out.
Yes.
With a button that goes on and off. And I'd push the button to turn it on, which was actually turning it off. And I put it on my side, turn it off, and then it would start recording. This is one of the first times I used this kind of video camera, and it was on a fatal. And I managed to find 20 seconds of video that miraculously, the camera was pointed at the vehicle, and there was there was okay to go to the scene. There was no bodies there or anything like that. And that footage, as unprofessional and shaky as it was, got a lot of traffic. And it got a lot of traction online. And that's because it was spot news and people needed to know about it. And I'm glad to show that coming off of the mountain from New York was, we could show that it was dangerous. But the survivors of that scene were very upset. And they let me know through letters for a long time after the event that they were mad that I went up that mountain and showed the accident. But what I was showing was a dangerous circumstance. And there are tons of accidents on that hill.
Wow.
Tons of fatals, actually.
Yeah.
So people need to slow down.
Yes.
It's curvy and it's steep. And it gets icy. All those conditions played a part in that accident. It was not ice, but rain. So it was a bad day to be driving fast on that hill. And if you're driving a little fast, you're bound to make a mistake.
So this was sort of hate snail mail.
I suppose.
What did it say?
It's been so long, I don't really remember. I think they had some expletives for me. And I did my job. I did what I was supposed to do, and I informed the public about a very tragic accident. I have no stake in, I don't get any joy out of people getting hurt. But talking about how people get hurt is not only fair game, but it's important.
I agree.
So if you realize the consequences of being dangerous in traffic, you're going to be careful. I know I am.
Yes. My late wife was in a car accident in 2016 where there was a fatal, and that was on the front page of the Eagle. Ugh. And I don't ever remember being like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did that." It's fair game. That was news. That was a major car accident where someone lost their life. I would expect that to be on the front page of the paper.
Yeah. So that's typically I wasn't challenged too much for doing my job. And the Eagle works very hard to be tasteful in their coverage and necessary. So necessary coverage is there, but you have a handful of people talking about how to do it right.
I agree.
And they do a great job.
I don't perceive them as tabloidy at all.
No, not at all.
I see them as straight news.
Yeah.
And very necessary.
Yeah. They're definitely good people making those decisions. The other time that I felt threatened by, and I think we talked about this early, is there was a triple murder organized by, I can't remember their names even, but
I remember.
Was it Hall? David Hall?
Adam Hall. David Shalhoub.
And
Caius Fivas.
Yeah. I didn't do all the pictures for that.
Viovas.
But I did the initial ones. And
like the arraignment?
Yeah, arraignments and some initial court stuff in Berkshire County. And I know that Adam Hall knew who I was. And he addressed me once in court, and I pretended that I wasn't allowed to speak to anybody, and the bailiffs, the court guards were quick enough to back me up there. It was terrifying. And the fact is that there is not a lot of photojournalists on this planet who've put their name with the name of a motorcycle club member and published it in that particular motorcycle club. And the fact is that it was kind of in a courtroom and really public, and It was me doing my job. But that didn't prevent me from being afraid for about a year because those pictures were kind of rare. And of course, nothing happened, but that was a kind of trauma from the job. It's just being in a circle of where a murder had occurred was pretty hard to imagine.
What was rare about the photo?
Putting your byline on a photograph from that particular motorcycle club. So I identified a member of that club. And I didn't really do the identifying. The court system did. But those pictures are quite rare. And the ones that exist were sanctioned by the. Now, the fact is, he wasn't in the club anymore. So that maybe is in my favor. The fact it was so public, whatever. I wasn't really in any danger, but I felt like I was.
Sure.
Yeah.
He addressed you. What'd he say?
He didn't like the way things were going. He was a master manipulator. He had no idea of anyone else's needs. Something wasn't going right for him in court, and he looked at me and says, "I'm being bamboozled and railroaded or something like that, aren't I?" And I looked right at the guard and said, "Can you explain to him that I'm not allowed to talk to him?" Which was complete. Do you have a bleeper? It was total bullshit.
Yeah.
But the fact is, the guard caught on, and he realized what I was trying to not give him any conversational leverage.
Right. You're not going to recognize, affirm anything he's saying.
Yeah, and
he's
the
probably
fact
just
of the matter is, if you get caught doing terrible things and you're in court, you're going to have a few days that just don't go your way.
Right. That was such big news around here, and rightfully so, obviously. I mean, I remember I had just moved here, and it was 2011.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
I
think a coworker of mine used to serve Caius at one of the restaurants around here. Like, he used to come in all the time, because he was such a recognizable figure because he had the horn implants.
Yeah, and one of the victims was on the front page of the Eagle years and years before, swimming in the Noda. And I remember the picture. Joel Laprizzi took it, and Joel is long past. But he was one of the front page pictures of, a warm spring day when someone went swimming in a Noda. So it's like these are real people in our community and stuff like that. It's easy to make this stuff abstract in your head because we see TV shows about it. But when it's actually a small town like this, you've got to show people that it's real. That this kind of thing does happen in real life. It doesn't quite happen like it does on TV, but it's real, and it needs to be addressed by not just professional photojournalists, but a series of professional police and officers of the court.
You're from here?
I'm from Cleveland. I've been here for 30 years.
Wow. What brought you here?
I was recruited by the Eagle. I went to school in Vermont at Middlebury and came back to New England to sort of work in newspapers. I worked at the Laconia Citizen for a year, and that was a paper that's published at noon. They call that an evening paper, which means you have to be up at 4:30 in the morning to get stuff camera ready. That didn't last long. So then I was a stringer for AP, and I did really well. And we heard about this job, and I applied and got it. So I've been here ever since, and this is my town. This is where I live.
When I mentioned the last 30 years, 95 through now, news, photojournalism, what are some of the major stories besides the ones we've talked about pop up?
It's pretty interesting because some of them you don't know are going to be stories. I remember Charlie Baker coming to visit the mayor, and I wasn't allowed in. And I was like, that's weird. So we got out to a podium in front of City Hall, And he announced that the state was going to deal with the coronavirus.
I remember.
That picture was of Charlie Baker was used throughout the pandemic as his picture. And it was not tremendous. It was competent. It wasn't a big deal.
Was it you?
It was my picture, yeah. And there were other photographers there, but the Eagle shared liberally with AP for years and years. And another time, I was photographing Governor Swift, Lieutenant Governor Swift, visiting the Berkshires.
Jane Swift.
Yeah. And my beeper was going off, but I couldn't deal with it. And I did this. It was some thing at the state motor vehicle department, and I called AP after the event. And they said, she's now our governor. And so I was the only photographer with her on that day. And, I was like a groundbreaking or something with golden shovels. It was really not one of those events that you get too excited about as a journalist. But it turned out the pictures were rather important because she became a historic governor for the state. And so that was kind of cool. I had a nice moment with Governor Cellucci where it was one of the galas for the opening of Mass Mocha. And he was bored out of his skull. So he motioned to me and he told his troopers, he waved them away. So we went in this exhibit and just played. And I got a picture of him in this exhibit that's built mostly on light. So it was great for me. And that turned into one of the most memorable pictures for me that I ever took because I thought he was a great guy. And, he passed away after being an ambassador in Canada. But that was a cool sort of, he just let me do my thing. And he made sure that his people knew that I had to, I felt awesome. Very important.
Yeah, of course.
That was probably one of the neatest things I've ever done.
You talked a little bit about demolition earlier.
Yeah. So if you watch early Bruce Willis movies, you think a demolition happens in 5 minutes. But if you live in Berkshire County, you know it takes about 1.5 years to take down something good. And there's reasons for that. It's because there's materials like asbestos that have to be mitigated very carefully and that kind of thing. But like Taconic took forever. England Brothers took forever. And I remember it raining asbestos one day but they had to hose it down the whole time and take it down piece by piece before Berkshire Bank took over that spot.
That's where England Brothers was, Berkshire Bank.
I think it's Legacy, Berkshire. I don't know. They're all the same.
I talk a lot about urban renewal with Ricardo Morales, who is the current Commissioner of Public Works, and Berkshire Athenaeum has a lot of pictures they've been posting on their Facebook page of the old structures on West Street, and I'm just fascinated by all that stuff.
Yeah. That actually, it was a project that I worked on at the Eagle, where we published and scanned a bunch of their pictures of this whole group of neighborhoods and mom and pop businesses that were pushed out of the way when they built West Street. And you almost can't even do it then and now because the landscape has changed so much. Then and now would be trying to attempt to take the same picture from the same spot with the same lens. But there was a map. And when I did that story, I did a drone picture and approximated the map, and I thought that was pretty interesting. That the fallout from that project still exists. They're not. If a house gets worn out on the west side, it's going to be torn down. It's not going to be rebuilt. And I think that's going to change. But losing that many, lost a lot of houses and businesses and, a whole little subcultures.
Yes.
To get an idea of how different Pittsfield was before even I got here, the Central Fire Station.
On Allen.
Center and Columbus.
Oh, the active one now.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
That was a brownstone office building like you might see on North Street that housed the original Caping Toys. And the Columbus Street and all the streets heading to North Street were lined with these little tiny stores. So you'd have like an arcade, you'd have insurance agencies, you'd have restaurants and a toy store. And all these little things that made you need to go downtown and do your chores, do your errands, pick up your batteries, go to the hardware store.
Like little conduits to North Street.
Yeah. But it was all live businesses.
Right.
And
like Union Street and Bradford and all those streets?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And the concept of those really lively places, that whole economy can't exist now because we have big boxes and Amazon and that kind of thing. But that's part of what we lost, along with a lot of family houses with that urban renewal.
Yes.
So urban blight, yeah, things get worn out and they need to change. But it was used as a tool to unfairly dislocate whole neighborhoods.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they became parking lots for a long time. I mean,
yeah.
I was told that Greylock on the corner of West and Center, I believe, that was vacant for years and years and years. Like before they built that. That was a parking lot. Like all like Park Street looking wet, like where District is and Thistle and Mirth and all that strip down there was all buildings and restaurants and stuff. And
mm-hmm. And we have the Holiday Inn now, which takes up a huge amount of space.
Yes.
But it used to be the Wendell, I think it was called the Wendell, and a whole bunch of those little mom and pops businesses. And that whole character, like CVS was, I think, a Buick dealership when I got here. So there was some vibrancy in that part of town, which could come back. It needs a little love. It's nice that the murals that Pops Peterson put up on West Street kind of are.
Yeah, who's doing that? I don't even know who's doing that.
Well, he did the first one. I don't know. I think he did them both, but the first one was Rainbow Ruby. And the whole idea was that there was this vibrant living place of color.
Yeah.
And that was a nod to them and a nod to if there was a few little Easter eggs in there nodding to the people who've been from the West Side who are very successful and that kind of thing. But we lost huge chunks of neighborhood. I live there now. I live in one of the houses that remains in Jubilee Hill.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we lost tons. That Cloverleaf downtown, Cloverleaf meaning the intersection of, well, whatever that group of ramps is around that neighborhood, around Big Y, takes up a huge amount of space. That takes up dozens and dozens and dozens of what was once houses.
And a train station, apparently, there. I mean, this is long before I was there as well.
Big Y is in the location of the Pittsfield train station, which apparently was so well built that it was actually difficult and expensive to demolish, going full circle in this conversation.
Yes.
And it would be a magnificent building if it had survived. It would be like our own little central station.
Yes.
And now we have the intermodal transportation hub, which is cool. It's just nice. But the older train station would have been.
I mean, think
really
about that,
cool.
right? Even the pictures I see of on the Berkshire Eames Facebook page of what was West Street. I mean, those buildings look strong, and they didn't look like they needed to be torn down. But I mean, and I thought they looked awesome.
In other parts of the country, we had the same sort of thing, but it was much more overtly racist.
Yes.
And I really want to, what happened here in town was happening everywhere. And I don't want to get into the motivations of it, except that it was kind of a shame.
No, that's how I understand it. So what are you going to do now? You told me you signed up for college today.
Yeah, I just registered for the culinary program at BCC. And that's part of my interest in wellness. I've been taking care of myself since I retired. And in doing so, I hurt my knee horribly.
Were you unwell before or just never valued exercise? And
I think at the end, I think that the job became working conditions at the Eagle were really good. And the job wasn't that demanding, but for years and years and years, it was everything. And it took precedence over. So like a lot of people with jobs, you're pretty tired when you come home. You don't necessarily eat the best thing, you eat the convenient thing. And that definitely was a habit of mine. But I didn't exercise enough. I tried to go out on the weekends and exercise, but you really need to keep doing things all week. So food and exercise have been what I've been focusing on since I've retired.
What do you like to eat?
Anything in front of me. Last night I made a nice mushroom and chicken dish, but it was low. It was pretty fit stuff.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Where do you like to eat in restaurants? You were at Aura the other night. How was that?
It was really nice. I'm looking forward to seeing what Gordy Hebler brings to North Street. I don't know the name of the restaurant he's built where Poncho's was, but the Grand?
The Grand, yeah.
Okay. But that's going to be good.
Gordy Hebler?
Gordy Hebler. Yeah.
Hebler? Is he a known guy or something?
Yeah.
Oh,
and he's a
I didn't
fantastic cook.
Oh, awesome.
He's going to be running this place. And I remember just the stuff he would make when he was in Pittsfield years ago. He ran a place called Red or Fraser's, and the food was amazing.
Where was that?
It was on the Wendell. Is that the
Extension?
Yeah, Wendell Street.
Fraser's?
Yeah. I like so much food. It's hard to narrow it down.
When you were eating bad, where were you eating?
Oh, convenient stuff that I'd get at the supermarket that I could just throw in the oven.
Yeah.
So, chicken tenders.
Yeah, gotcha.
Kind of, and cutting out all the sugars and starches was probably job one.
That's tough to do.
It is tough
because it's satisfying. It gives you a little buzz. I mean, I understand.
It's also a lot of learning to do. I can't eat gluten and dairy, so where's gluten hidden? I will tell you that it's hidden in soy sauce, which doesn't even have wheat in the name. It's hidden in Twizzlers. It's hidden all over the place. And you have to make sure if you can't eat gluten, which has painful effects to someone who's sensitive.
Yeah.
You gotta educate yourself. So, like hidden sugar, like what fruits can I eat without getting in trouble, that kind of thing. I'm still learning, and I have a long way to go. But I became so interested in making my own food that I'm going to college for it.
That's awesome. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about the changing landscape of media.
This is a great topic.
It's 2026. When I got into radio, there was three major forms of media, what we call legacy media. There was print, radio, and TV. Three main sources of information who control and get to let you know the information of the world. People have habits in the morning. They get in the car, they're listening to their radio. Before they got into their car, they probably had the news on. They went to work. They bought the paper. They got the paper delivered or whatever. Now, with the invention of the internet and multiple social media platforms, everything is divided up into cultures and subcultures. No matter if you're interested in the length and growth of a turtle shell, you can find that.
Yeah.
Combine that with the fact that everyone's got a cell phone. The people are the media now via apps and stuff. And combine that with the fact that the discernment of truth becoming today's biggest obstacle and challenge because of the distrust of the mainstream media. Call it botched coverage of COVID, election with Trump, however you want to blame it. This is where we are, the ultimate information war.
Oh, gosh, you're not kidding. And it's there's some things that draw people to media that aren't very controversial, and they're important to address. Because when you got a newspaper, when I was a child, let's say the 70s, when there was TV and radio, you could look at your horoscope. You find ads for the food you want or the clothes you want to wear. You'd watch. You go to the sports page and catch up with the Cleveland Browns or some other team that you might care about. And then you'd have the news, and on the front page that in Cleveland, that would have been national news because that was a big market paper. And then on the inside, there would be the local news. You'd also have bridge columns. You'd also have opinion columns. And older readers of older media would understand that opinion and news were very different segments of the paper. But what you have, I'm describing a newspaper because that's the part of the elephant this blind man sees. And that bundle of information was trying to please everybody. It'd have recipes in it. It would really have something for everybody in the house,
yes.
Comics. We don't need it anymore. And that's kind of good and kind of scary because newspaper distribution is wildly inefficient, and we got to worry about our planet. But the information that was in that newspaper was always curated. So to be useful, to be necessary. And it was. Now we have people with YouTube channels that can address one of these topics. And you look at the thumbnail for their YouTube video. And instead of picking a frame from the video, they'll have AI combine features of I'm not talking about adjusting the colors or doing something really basic to a photo, but I'm talking about inventing content to get your idea across. Then you're catering information to your ideas and not what you find out in the world. And that the trouble is so you don't need the whole paper anymore. You're just looking for your thing. And it's getting narrower and narrower and more competitive.
Yes.
And the guardrails that protected us from drifting away from the truth have almost disappeared. Nowadays, our activists are people who are saying, hey, wait. That's not how the framers of the Constitution meant this to be taken, or that's not really what happened, or it probably wasn't a vandal, but maybe the tire of a giant limousine. So playing fast and loose with the truth. You may agree or disagree with a certain newspaper or television station. That television stations can be conservative or liberal, just like newspapers. But the fact of the matter is that system was a pretty good system for keeping people honest. In photojournalism, there is no AI allowed. There's a verb called photoshopping, which drove me nuts because it meant that you could alter an image so much that you would actually change the image drift towards the point you were trying to make.
Yes.
Or the classic sports editor saying there's no ball in this photo. And maybe a young photojournalist would be tempted to Photoshop or AI a ball into a photo. That would be very, very bad. There, by the way, tremendous sports photos without a ball in them. And so the temptation to drift away from the reality that needs to be reported is great right now. And we need people to understand that it's necessary for passing information to pass through a strong series or filter of ethics.
I agree with the photoshopping when you're talking about delivering news and information. That has to be not altered. However, meme culture is very popular and very funny.
Yeah, I don't want to get in the way of people's jokes. And I probably took my career too seriously. But the fact is that for transmitting news,
correct,
you need to not alter your material, and you need to get there and get it.
I agree. But with the invention of AI and like for example, this YouTube channel off air, I will take a photo of you, or Ryan will take a photo of you. We'll come up with a title, but we'll have AI enhance the photo. That's as AI as we get around here. But I wouldn't say, hey, take this photo, put a car accident in there, have him put his hand over his eye, have him put a thought bubble and say, you're fired. Like, I wouldn't do that.
Well, that's then you're dedicated to sort of pursuing the truth. The fact is that most of the photos that I made for the Eagle were adjusted. I would adjust the color. I would crop them. I would, lighten and darken them. Anything that we could easily do in the old style darkroom. As long as it wasn't altering the content of the photo. And you can alter the lighting in a photo so much that you're starting to become dishonest. That is really, you have to have your own conscience grade you on that. But at the same time, I'm a dyslexic man, and I had a career as a journalist, and I used spell checks, and eventually those spell checks evolved into AI checking things, and they would find grammar, and I was very grateful for that, because the last, decade, I was able to make much better captions because of that. So AI can aid you in pursuing the truth, but if you have, if you see a picture of President Trump with an outrageous orange wig, you got to know it's a joke.
Yes.
There's nothing wrong with humor.
Correct. In fact, it's necessary.
It's necessary. But the idea of discerning that is what's important. And I have seen meme-ish things turn up as photographic proof. Or worse yet, there's a candidate now who's attacking the governor. And there's an AI video of someone who looks a lot like our governor eating a donut in a pickup truck. This never happened. And it's very clearly a fake video. And it's a campaign ad. And I don't know why people aren't jumping on that kind of use, because that's absolutely not dedicated to the truth. It's dedicated to someone's point of view. And honestly, the truth doesn't always fit your point of view. It's a painful realization.
It is. That's why they say the truth hurts,
Sometimes. And sometimes it's on your side.
And sometimes it's right. It's vindicating. But yeah, discerning truth is it's a big problem.
Yeah.
And the audience isn't dumb. And there's something very comforting about watching things that confirm your bias. I mean, we all do it. We all do it, and we all love it. At the end of the day, we want to sit down and be comfortable And that includes eating a food, having a drink, popping on something that confirms your bias, be it slightly or a lot. I don't know. But news, used to be a lost leader, right? The who, what, when, where, and why. Just tell me that. And then I will decide how I feel about it.
Yeah.
But that's not sexy. That doesn't sell. And you've got your CNN and your Fox, and I love to see that they used to have a chart of where all the major media companies are on the political side.
Yeah, and actually, I would start to question some of that, because I've seen a lot of media companies drift towards the current administration. I'm talking on the national. The Eagles. Yeah. The Eagles has a backbone. They've been doing fine. But nationally, we had one of the greatest news gathering organizations on the planet completely cave to the administration. That would be CBS News. They were some of the best video photojournalism mainstream for years and years and years. And now I'm really afraid to say that to people, because there's been issues
with their news or their photos.
Their news.
Is that Larry Ellison? Is that CBS? Is that what we're talking about?
What's her name now?
Barry Weiss.
Yeah, she's now running it, and she's now curating content. So if it's critical of the administration, it may be discouraged.
I thought she was center. Is she conservative? Barry Weiss is conservative? I thought she was maybe I thought because she was a lesbian, she was liberal.
I'm not going to comment on that, but definitely the CBS has changed considerably.
Yeah.
Washington Post, considerably. And I think shrinking staffs also makes it much harder for a lot of ideas to percolate and be part of the soup.
The changing landscape of media and journalism. I still love legacy media radio. I think FM radio really still works in an area like this, which is my full-time job. But I also love this intimate conversations with people I find interesting on a video platform. I love that. But it's measured success, right? When you're on radio, you're just blasting noise out to whoever can receive it in their car. And you're like, tons of people listen, but you really don't know. You could, there is, and we're in an unrated market where, have you ever gotten a Nielsen diary before? Back in the day when you were rated for radio, you had a diary. They would mail you a diary with 2 crisp dollar bills, and they would ask you to write down what radio station you listened to, and you'd have to mail it back. And they were weighted and scaled. That's how companies knew what radio station you listened to.
The accounting people who participate in newspapers has gotten to be really complex, because you're weighing print versus online. And online is basically where the news is happening now. It's a very valid place to be. But the metrics are completely new. Yeah. And they're constantly changing. So that one video I told you about the West Housatonic Street accident, that got a lot of views. But the paper has since then become much better at being an online presence, and made their material much more online friendly. And they're still evolving. It took a long time.
That's a must.
Yeah.
Listen, the old ways are never coming back. They're just not going to. Not the way like vinyl came back, and that came back for 5 minutes. It's not like album sales are people are going buying records and not listening to digital copies of music.
The mistake with the old ways going away is the temptation to forget the lessons we learned and from them. Right now we have We used to have 3 photographers, and then occasionally a reporter would take pictures. Now all the reporters are taking pictures, and they're getting better at it. But you have to sit back and let them learn and watch them get better. And maybe one of them will see this podcast and realize that there's a few kind of ethics to look out for so that you can protect your name. You know, I have absolute pride in every image that I put my name on at the paper. And I fought hard to make sure that my integrity stayed strong.
Love it.
And I think that the other photojournalists do the same thing.
Yeah, that's the classic quantity over quality debate. Quality over quality. I mean, you want to be...
There's a real thing there, too, because for a short amount of time, we've been able to measure how people watch photos online for a long time. And for a short amount of time, if you would put maybe 300 pictures in an album, we were having people look at every single one. And it was hard on someone who wanted to make sure that each picture looked great, because that's a lot of work for 300 photos. Maybe a dozen is easy to work on because of adjusting the colors and the crops and the captions. That was a brief point in the history of photo media or whatever. Now people want to see better stuff. They want to see stuff they care about. They don't want the random the outtakes that are probably not as polished and don't get to the point. Those don't really help anyone in telling a story. But quantity was clearly winning for a few years there, and it was distressing. Quality's back, I think.
Good. The other thing, we are inundated with such big amounts of content on video platforms like YouTube and Shorts and stuff. It's almost like the desensitization. Am I saying that? Is that the right way to say that?
Inshitification.
Yeah. It's like people's dopamine levels continue, like their threshold continues to rise. Like, I've already seen that. How many times I like watching body camera footage of like police and stuff. Like, I just watched a guy get shot waiting for a bus because he was like waving a gun around, and it didn't even affect me. We see so much of this stuff, and like I referenced the movie Nightcrawler, where Jake Gyllenhaal goes around and he tapes videos for news organizations and he sells them to. And they blur out the faces, but I mean, she's constantly, the person in charge of the station is constantly pushing that envelope. Can we show this? Can we show this? Are they going to sue us because that stuff is attractive and it's shocking and it sells and everybody wants to see a car crash, and it's just funny to see that threshold kind of go up and down.
It does move around.
Yeah.
I can think of a couple instances where where other newspapers, national newspapers, have shown dead bodies. There was a bike crash at the Tour de France. And man, people were talking about that in my industry for years. War is another time when it becomes necessary to show the horror of the war. Hopefully desensitization doesn't happen, but that is a real thing. We are constantly shown fiction that desensitizes us.
Yeah.
And some of it more dangerously than others. And in fact, and YouTube is highly curated. Thank goodness, because it could be a real Wild West of almost anything.
It was the Wild West.
Yeah, it's not now.
It's not now.
I don't know.
X is the Wild West.
Yeah. And, there's a point for saying, free speech. But free speech, as long as you're not really hurting people. And that's the measure. Is this going to ultimately do good, or is it going to hurt people? And I think becoming callous to hateful speech, violence, is a very, very bad thing. It's hard to imagine the the hell that some people go through just from a simple traffic accident, or if they're a victim of violent crime. But we can't forget that, and we can't watch Criminal Minds and think, oh, this is how normal life is. If you're watching a lot of the fiction out there, and let's say it's an episode of Hawaii Five-0 with a potential biothreat in Hawaii, that'd be the biggest freaking story in the country.
Yeah.
And of course, it's just an episode of
Right.
of a TV show.
But really live that.
Yeah, and there's a ton of shows like that.
A friend of mine was caught on an island with a tsunami warning. And his wife is still so traumatized about it. The tsunami never hit, but I asked her to come on the podcast and sort of recount that experience, and she won't do it because it's still so traumatic.
It's hard to talk about some of this stuff because of my experiences.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm struggling a little. Yeah.
Oh, well, I commend you for, I mean, you don't seem like you are, so I commend you for, I know this isn't, this might not be easy for everybody. And
yeah,
I'm honored to have you on.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And I'm honored to be on. I've been listening to you and Marjo on the radio forever. And like I told you on the other day, you actually changed my taste in music, which is
yeah. I know the one thing I think he's giving me a compliment. He says the music.
Don't do that.
I thought he was going to be like, through your conversation and storytelling ability and ability to make me feel better than I did 5 minutes ago. You've really changed my life. I'd be like, oh my God, I do have a purpose on the earth. The music that you don't pick really changed my life. I was like, oh my God.
Well, I wouldn't say the music changed my life, but I do listen to you guys, and I like the rapport.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to have
Marcia quit the podcast is not for her.
Well,
I'm just joshing you.
Yeah. The fact is that you have a degree of celebrity in the area. That's kind of
not really. Yeah.
All right.
But anyway, Ben Garver, everybody, the man.
That's hard to pay attention for that long.